Greta Gerwig's Lady Bird is one of the most acclaimed coming-of-age movies of the 2010s, and it has grown to be my favorite coming-of-age movie of all time. The charisma of this movie and how it deals with teenage friendships, crushes, relationships, pursuing colleges, make it all resemble a journal entry of a teenager, and that makes it very grounded and relatable, and that's the essence of cinema. But don't get it wrong, at its very core, Lady Bird is about a teenage girl and her complicated relationship with her mother. All the other subplots are a result of this. The very first scene starts with the two of them, and the very last scene is still about their growing relationship. And I was having a conversation about these characters with someone, and they very easily claimed that Lady Bird was a bad person and Marion was a bad mother. And as someone with a complicated relationship with his mother, I just don't think that. I think there is so much more to it. So in this video, I want to dissect their relationship and the true evilness of Marion. Marion is Lady Bird's critical, pessimistic, controlling mother, and as a result of this, Lady Bird is a rebellious teenager who dreams of freedom away from her hometown. Marion says things like,
"The way that you work, or the way that you don't work, you're not even worth state tuition. You're not going to a funeral."
It's too tight. Fuck.
Well, I suggested you not have that second helping of pasta.
She in no measure is a perfect mother, far from it, and Lady Bird is barely a morally good character at times.
You know your mom's tits, they're fake, totally fake.
She made one bad decision at 19!
Two bad decisions! Listen, if your mother had the abortion, we wouldn't have to sit through this stupid assembly.
But so much of Lady Bird's character can be attributed to her mother's seemingly resentful behavior. Marion is to blame for a lot of Lady Bird's characteristics. To properly understand Marion, who's probably the most complex character in the story, we need to go to the very start. The very first scene where we are introduced to Lady Bird and her mother. Though this rolls out into chaos the very next scene, this scene is beautiful. Gerwig doesn't choose to start their relationship on some misunderstanding or an argument, but a peaceful and a loving moment between them. She wants us to have this first impression of their bond. She calls it a Marie Cassatt painting of motherhood, something that just exudes maternal love. Marion then fixes the bedsheets. She doesn't have to.
You don't have to do that.
But she does. This is the first depiction of a trait that is echoed throughout the movie. That is, she will put herself through an inconvenience to make others feel better, or at least seem better to other people. And this makes her very critical about herself, leaving very little space for self-love. She's the bearer of the bad news. She will take the blame so that others don't have to. I kept seeing people calling her out for not being a good mother, which was so strange to me, because from my very first watch, it was so clear that she loved Lady Bird so much. She just had a very hard time vocalizing her love. She was not a loving mother, but she loved her very much. In fact, to the point where she doesn't even see Lady Bird as a whole separate individual, but rather just an extension of herself. She's not this critical about anyone else, not her husband, not her son, no one. And to understand her true nature, we need to look at how she interacts with everyone and what her intentions are. Marion always comes off as this considerate person to everyone else. However, to Lady Bird, she's as critical of Lady Bird as she is about herself. It is not a good way of showing affection, but that is how she took care of herself against her alcoholic mother, and that is what she's teaching her own daughter. Not a good thing, but really goes to show the closeness that she feels with Lady Bird. The one scene that's the most talked about when it comes to the two of them is when Lady Bird is trying on her prom dress at the thrift store, and they have this conversation.
I wish that you liked me.
Of course I love you.
But do you like me?
Momentarily, Marion is left speechless, and then she says this.
I want you to be the very best version of yourself that you can be.
What if this is the best version?
This instantly takes me back to the final episode of Fleabag, where she has a conversation with her father.
I mean, I'm sorry. I love you, but I'm not sure that I like you all the time.
Fleabag has a very similar conversation with her sister as well, who tells her that they don't need to be friends because they are sisters.
Just thought we were hanging out, just as friends.
We're not friends. We are sisters.
Get your own friends.
They don't need to get along with each other. They don't need to like each other because they're a family. Their bond goes far beyond that. Like, they might fight with each other, but family is always there for each other at the end of the day. And Marion is there for Lady Bird. When Lady Bird gets her heart broken by some douche, she runs to her mother and she's there with open arms. Like a loving mother would, like a really loving mother would. What suggests their true nature of love for each other is in the previous scene, Lady Bird is confronting the school principal. The school principal tells Lady Bird that in her college essay, she very clearly loves Sacramento.
You clearly love Sacramento.
Lady Bird is kind of surprised because she never actually claims her love for Sacramento. She just pays a lot of attention to it. And then the principal says,
Don't you think maybe they are the same thing? Love and attention?
Marion also never claims her love for Lady Bird, but she pays a lot of attention to her. She doesn't need to tell her to eat less. She doesn't have a good way of mentioning those details, but she does pay a lot of attention to detail. So Marion loves Lady Bird the same way Lady Bird loves Sacramento. The main problem with Marion is how critical she is of her daughter, and as someone with an overtly critical mother, I think I understand why. When Lady Bird's father loses his job, Marion comes to break the news.
Your father doesn't have a job. He lost his job.
When Lady Bird makes her father drop her a block away to not be associated with poverty, Marion confronts her.
Your dad knows why you ask him to drop you off a block away from school every day?
Dad, I didn't mean to.
You made him feel horrible.
Marion will do whatever it takes to make her daughter a responsible person. She doesn't take the best route for it, which is her own fault, but she doesn't care if she looks like a mean person doing it. But back to the argument scene, Lady Bird breaks out and says this.
Give me a number.
I don't understand.
You give me a number for how much it costs to raise me, and I'm gonna get older and make a lot of money and write you a check for what I owe you so that I never have to speak to you again.
I'm sure a lot of people have said this word for word, and Marion is completely shocked by this. And this is one of the moments where I think she realizes she has failed as a mother, and she completely deflects that with a criticism as well.
Well, I highly doubt that you will be able to get a job good enough to do that.
It's Marion's coldness which makes Lady Bird feel like a burden, as if raising her was trouble, like financial or otherwise. And perhaps that's what makes Lady Bird think, if I'm such a problem to them, then I'll repay them for all the trouble that I've caused them, so that they'll never have to see me again. It's only because Marion forgets to affirm Lady Bird that in between her judgy moments, she actually does love her, as much as it's humanly possible. The foundation of their crumbling relationship is the way Marion communicates, or the lack of it. I think a piece of Marion dies here because she realizes she failed to keep a healthy relationship between the two of them. A piece of her also dies when Lady Bird makes her father drop her off a block away. You can see how critically she's affected by this when she makes all this effort to give her children a good life, and then Lady Bird says she's from the wrong side of the tracks.
Lady Bird always says that she lives on the wrong side of the tracks, but I always thought that that was like a metaphor.
Oh.
But there are actual train tracks.
And as soon as Lady Bird realizes her ungratefulness, she offers compensation, and Marion just gladly forgives her. And I don't think it's just because Lady Bird says something heartbreaking, it's because this is the possibility of their future relationship. She knows that Lady Bird could just send her money and never talk to her again. There's this immediate look of defeat on her face. It's almost as if she realizes that she failed Lady Bird. And despite all of this, they never questioned the existence of love in this relationship. I think Lady Bird and Marion both see that, and it's so hard for them to grow apart from each other because of it. But I think Lady Bird keeps coming back to her not just because of love, but also because they're the same person. Like, they're the same people in different generations. Like, Marion is happy whenever Lady Bird is happy. She will always put her daughter ahead of her. Like, of course she wants to spend Lady Bird's last Thanksgiving before college with her, but if being with her friends makes her happy, then she's happy with that.
We missed you, Lady Bird.
Marion is always a bit concerned for Lady Bird, and I think she sees right through Lady Bird when she's trying to appease these popular kids in her class. She grounds her, but she still lets her spread her wings. Their flawed relationship is because of the lack of communication, quite literally because Marion later gives Ladybird the silent treatment, which is the worst thing you could do as a parent.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. I appreciate everything you've done for me. I'm ungrateful, and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I wanted more.
But I think Marion does this when she gives up all hope to repair their bond as mother-daughter. Like, she's completely lost Ladybird at that point. That's what she feels like. To Marion, Ladybird no longer wants her to be a part of Ladybird's happiness. If Ladybird has already started maneuvering her way around her mother to apply to colleges, in 10 years, they won't be on speaking terms. The silent treatment is not the way to go, but she must have been heartbroken here, mostly because she knows she is at fault. The last time Ladybird talked to her about applying to colleges in the East Coast, we know what happened.
Not expect everybody to do everything.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son.
Even if Ladybird had talked to her about applying to colleges in East Coast again, Marion would have been critical and Ladybird would have applied anyways because she is resisting. And it's not Ladybird's fault, because Ladybird does not want to go through all of this if she's not even sure if she's getting into these colleges. At one point, Marion tries to overcome this communication barrier by writing Ladybird a letter, but she can't, because she's never done this before, and so she suppresses her feelings up until the very end, until Ladybird gets on the plane or the airport. Then she goes away, and then she reads these scrap letters that her father put in anyways. And if you pause to read them, they're simply heartbreaking. Oh my god. She reads these letters and she finally accepts her mother's love that had been, suppressed in favor of concern. And Ladybird finally ends this miscommunication or lack of communication in the most heartbreaking monologue.
Hey, Mom. Did you feel emotional the first time that you drove in Sacramento?
Ladybird confesses so that now her mother can openly confess. How Marion tries to end her generational trauma doesn't work, so Ladybird does it for her.
But I wanted to tell you. I love you. Thank you. Thank you.
Marion is a deeply flawed character, but her attempt to finally express her love for her daughter, which in turn leads her daughter to express her love for Marion, is such a monumental arc. It's heartwarming. Ladybird knows how her mother steps into her room and everything. Of course, they knew that they loved each other. It was merely a matter of communication. I love that it ends on the most positive note ever, that despite all of this hurdle, not only does Ladybird step into maturity, her relationship with her mother also is now stepping into maturity. If somehow Greta Gerwig receives this message, thank you for making this movie. Like, genuinely, it changed my life.